Her son needed a donor, but the only match was the millionaire who broke her heart. The morning in San Francisco was painted in soft gold, the kind that blurs the line between fog and sunlight. Inside a small office on the 10th floor, its windows facing the glittering bay, Emma Rivera bent over her desk, tracing the final lines of a bridge design that would soon rise in the heart of the city. The scratch of her pencil and the quiet hum of the printer wove together a rhythm of calm routine. She sipped her coffee, thinking about the report due later that afternoon, unaware that within minutes, her entire world would shatter. Her phone buzzed. The screen read Bayview Elementary School. A chill raced down her spine. Leo was only 7, and the school had never called during class hours. Her fingers trembled as she answered. A woman's voice came through, rushed and urgent. "Ms. Rivera, this is Principal Johnson. Your son Leo collapsed during recess. Paramedics are taking him to San Francisco Children's Hospital." In that instant, all sound drained from the room. The blueprints slipped from her hands, scattering like fallen leaves across the floor. Emma froze, then bolted upright, running before she could even think. The elevator, the city noise, the chaos, it all blurred into one frantic, colorless rush. Only one thought echoed in her head. Leo collapsed. My boy collapsed. The drive to the hospital was endless. Red lights flashed, sirens screamed, and tears streaked her vision as if the city itself were crying with her. When she finally arrived, she barely remembered parking before she was sprinting through the emergency entrance, lungs burning. A nurse recognized her name and guided her quickly down a sterile corridor. The air reeked of disinfectant, sharp enough to sting. Room 7. The door swung open, and her world fell apart. Leo lay so small on the white sheets, his skin pale, a tangle of IV lines threading through his fragile arms. His lips were cracked, his eyelashes trembling with every shallow breath. Emma reached for him, her hand shaking. "Mommy's here, sweetheart." Her voice cracked as Leo blinked weakly, trying to smile. "I'm just tired, Mom. Don't worry." Dr. Elena Torres, a composed woman with kind eyes, stepped into the room holding a clipboard. "Ms. Rivera, we're running additional tests. The initial results suggest Leo's kidneys are under severe distress. We need to confirm before giving a full diagnosis." Each word landed like a blade. Kidney distress. The phrase looped in her mind, hollow and cruel. The world shrank until there was only her son, breathing faintly, and the relentless beeping of the monitors beside him. Time lost meaning. Every passing second carved deeper into her heart. She clung to Leo's hand, whispering words of comfort she barely believed. In his stillness, she saw all the years of struggle and love, the sleepless nights, the quiet strength, the laughter that had kept her alive. But strength meant nothing now. All that remained was fear, raw, consuming, and helpless. Outside, the San Francisco sky turned the color of steel. Rain began to fall, drumming softly against the glass, keeping time with the frantic rhythm of her heart. Emma pressed her forehead to Leo's small hand and whispered through her tears, "You'll be okay, baby. I promise. I won't let anything take you from me." She couldn't know that this moment, this single, devastating phone call, would be the one that changed everything. Time drifted like a blur. Emma stayed by the hospital bed, listening to the steady beeping of the monitor, each tone a sharp reminder that her son's heart was still fighting. Sometimes she imagined that if she just looked up, she'd find Leo smiling, asking when she'd finish work so they could go home for pancakes. But the truth was merciless. He lay still, fragile, lost beneath a tangle of tubes and machines. The door opened, and Dr. Elena Torres stepped inside with a folder of printed results. Her expression was calm, but her eyes carried the kind of sorrow that made Emma's stomach twist. "Ms. Rivera," she began gently, "we have the full results now. Leo is in end-stage renal failure. Both kidneys are functioning at less than 10%. The words froze the room. Every sound seemed to fade into a distant hum. Emma stared at her, lips parting, no voice coming out. Numbers, medical terms, they all blurred into noise. Only 4 words remained. End-stage renal failure. "That can't be," she whispered. "He was fine, just tired sometimes, that's all." Dr. Torres placed a hand on her shoulder. Kidney decline can happen gradually without clear symptoms. Children are resilient. They compensate until they simply can't anymore. "We'll start dialysis immediately to stabilize him." Stabilize. Such a clinical word, and yet it sounded like a verdict. Emma sank into the chair, tears streaming unchecked. She looked at Leo's sleeping face, his breathing shallow but steady. A child, her child, tethered to machines to stay alive. The thought was unbearable. "There has to be another way," she pleaded. Dr. Torres hesitated, her tone low but firm. "A kidney transplant is the only long-term solution. Without a compatible donor, he'll have to remain on dialysis. And for a child, that's an incredibly difficult life." Emma swallowed hard, her voice breaking. "Then I'll do it. I'll give him mine." "We already tested your blood this morning," the doctor said softly. "I'm sorry, Ms. Rivera. You're not a match. We'll keep searching the National Registry, but for pediatric cases, the wait can take years." Years. The word struck her like thunder. She shook her head, sobbing. "No, I can't just sit here and wait." Torres looked at her quietly, then said, almost reluctantly, "There's another possibility. Living donors, especially blood relatives, often have higher compatibility." Emma froze. "You mean Leo's father?" The words hung heavy in the sterile air. Emma looked up, her face pale, voice trembling. "We're not in contact." "I understand," Dr. Torres said gently. "But right now, we're talking about your son's life. If there's even a chance, we should take it." Emma turned toward Leo, the boy whose eyes mirrored the very man she'd tried to erase from memory. She had spent years burying that chapter, convincing herself the past was dead. Yet here it was again, alive and merciless, pounding on the door she had locked for 8 long years. When the doctor left, silence swallowed the room. Emma placed her palm on Leo's chest, feeling the faint rhythm beneath her hand. The fluorescent light cast a ghostly glow over her tear-streaked face. A single tear fell onto Leo's hand, glimmering like glass. She whispered, her voice rough and trembling. "You won't die, baby. I swear. I'll do whatever it takes to save you." She didn't yet know that keeping that promise would force her to face the one man she'd vowed never to see again. Night settled over San Francisco, cold, heavy, and full of unspoken fear. Emma sat alone in the hospital room, her face pale under the fluorescent light. Leo was asleep, his breathing even, the monitor's soft beeps filling the silence like a fragile heartbeat. In her hand, the glow of her phone illuminated a single letter on the screen. L. Her thumb hovered there, motionless. One tap, and the past she had buried for 8 years would come rushing back. But she couldn't do it. Not yet. Not because she hadn't forgiven him, but because she hadn't forgiven herself. 8 years earlier, she had been a young civil engineer working for a renowned bridge design firm in Los Angeles. That was where she met Luca Moretti, the man with a smile that could quiet an entire room. He was the lead architect, brilliant and driven, with ideas that dared to defy gravity itself. Emma admired him instantly, and then, without meaning to, she loved him completely. They spent nights drafting blueprints side by side, building bridges not only of steel but of dreams. Luca often said that every bridge was proof that distance can be overcome. Emma believed him, in work and in love, until one night changed everything. She returned to the office earlier than expected, holding a design she couldn't wait to show him. The door to his studio was half open. Through the narrow gap, she saw him, holding another woman. Her hair caught the light, chestnut and gold, and the sight sliced through Emma like glass. Then came his voice, low, firm, unforgettable. "You're the mistake I should never have made." Her world imploded. She didn't wait to hear another word. No explanations, no tears. Just the echo of that sentence following her down the corridor as she fled, heart shattered, pride bleeding. Weeks later, she learned she was pregnant. She told no one. She didn't call Luca. She left Los Angeles, moved to San Francisco, built a new life from the wreckage. She worked endlessly, raised her child alone, and convinced herself she didn't need him. But on quiet nights, when Leo asked about his father, she could only whisper, "He lives very far away." Now, watching her son surrounded by machines, Emma realized that the distance she had built, the wall of silence she thought would protect them, was the very thing standing between Leo and life itself. Her thumb still rested on the phone screen, hovering over that single letter. She closed her eyes, tears spilling freely. If it meant saving her son, she would trade her pride for pain. But could she truly face the man who once broke her heart beyond repair? Night still cloaked the city when Emma stepped into the hospital corridor. The dim yellow light stretched across the tiles, reflecting her hollow face and swollen eyes. Her hand clutched the phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. That small device now felt like the thin thread between hope and despair. On the screen, the name Luca Moretti glowed like an old scar she could never erase. She had tried deleting it countless times, but somehow she always stopped short. Maybe deep down, she'd never truly let go. Her finger trembled as she pressed call. The dial tone echoed through the quiet hall, long, merciless rings that filled her with dread. A part of her wished he wouldn't answer. But then came that voice, rough, steady, unmistakable. Moretti speaking. 2 words, and the past came rushing back. The smell of late-night coffee, the sound of pencils scratching across paper, the way he used to look at her when city lights reflected in his eyes. She gripped the phone tighter, her voice breaking. "Luca." A beat of silence. "Emma?" His voice was soft with disbelief. After all these years? She cut him off before her tears could betray her. "I'm not calling about the past. I'm calling because of my son. Our son." Silence again, heavier this time. "What did you say?" "His name is Leo. He's 7. He's in the hospital. His kidneys are failing. The doctors say he needs a living donor and I'm not a match." The stillness on the line was suffocating. Emma thought he might have hung up when finally his voice returned, raw, broken. "I have a son? You never told me." "I know," she whispered. "I know I should have, but right now that doesn't matter. What matters is him. He needs you." She heard movement, the scrape of a chair, a sharp inhale, then his voice shifted, steady and resolute. the tone of the man who once commanded entire design teams. "I'm catching the next flight to San Francisco." "Luca, please, you don't understand. I didn't call to—" "No, Emma, you don't understand. I have a child who needs me. Everything else can wait." The line went dead. Emma stood frozen in the hallway, the phone slipping from her hand and hitting the floor with a hollow sound. Her body trembled. Her heart pounded out of rhythm. Relief and fear tangled inside her chest. Relief that Leo might have a chance. Fear of what his father's return would bring. Luca Moretti. The name she'd buried deep in her heart was now flying back toward her, carrying a past she'd spent years outrunning. She didn't know what terrified her more, that he'd find out he had a son, or that her heart still remembered how to love him. That night, Emma didn't sleep. She sat by Leo's bed, listening to the rain against the glass and the fragile rhythm of his heartbeat on the monitor. Each beat reminded her of the promise she'd made silently to herself, that no matter the cost, she would do whatever it took. For Leo. For her son, she would reopen the door she'd locked 8 years ago. The next morning, San Francisco's sky was heavy and gray, clouds hanging low over the hospital like a weight. Emma stood by the window of the waiting room, her coffee long gone cold. She hadn't slept. Every sound in the corridor made her heart leap. Every opening door felt like it might be him. And then, at exactly 9 o'clock, footsteps echoed, firm, purposeful, achingly familiar. Emma turned. Luca Moretti was there. He looked different from the man she remembered. Hair shorter, a shadow of stubble across his jaw, his shirt wrinkled from the overnight flight. But his eyes hadn't changed. That same storm-gray blue, sharp and tender all at once, held her frozen in place. For a long moment, time refused to move. 8 years of silence, of pride and pain, compressed into the fragile space between them. Luca took a few steps forward, stopping only a breath away. "Where is he?" His voice was hoarse, roughened by exhaustion and emotion. "In treatment. Dr. Torres is with him." He nodded, swallowing hard. Then his gaze locked on hers. "Why?" Just one word, but she understood everything it carried. "Because I thought you betrayed me," she said quietly. "Because I saw you in another woman's arms, and I heard you say I was your mistake." Luca stepped back, as if her words had struck him physically. "You heard wrong, Emma. You don't know what that night was. It doesn't matter anymore. We're not here for that. We're here for Leo." The door behind them opened. Dr. Elena Torres appeared, spotting Luca immediately. "Miss Rivera? This must be Leo's father?" Emma hesitated, her throat tight, but Luca spoke first. "Yes, I'm his father." For the first time, she saw something raw flicker in his eyes, shock, guilt, and a pain so real it cut through her resentment. Dr. Torres gave a faint, reassuring smile and handed him a clipboard. "We'll need your blood sample to test for compatibility. The sooner the better." "Do it now," Luca said firmly. When the doctor left, silence settled between them again. Luca's gaze lingered on the closed door of the treatment room. "Does he look like me?" he asked softly. Emma's lips curved in a bittersweet smile. "Every time Leo tilts his head to think, 'He looks so much like you, I have to look away.'" Luca clenched his fists, emotion flooding his voice. "I want to see him." "Not now. He's resting." "Emma, I've already lost 7 years of my son's life. I'm not losing another minute." She opened her mouth to argue, but before she could, the door creaked open. A small voice called, fragile but clear. "Mom? Who are you talking to?" Emma turned. Leo stood in the doorway, wearing a hospital gown, his hand gripping the IV pole. His wide eyes blinked between them, curious and cautious. The room fell utterly still. Luca froze, staring at the boy, at the living proof of everything he'd missed. Slowly, he dropped to one knee, a trembling smile breaking through. "Hi, Leo." "Who are you?" the boy asked, tilting his head, exactly as Luca once did. Luca's breath hitched. Tears shimmered in his eyes. "I'm your dad." Emma's fingers curled into her palms. In that instant, every wall she had built over 8 years collapsed. She watched as the two halves of her heart, the man who'd broken it and the boy who'd kept it beating, finally stood face to face. And she knew that from this moment on, nothing could keep the past from returning. The lab was bathed in sterile white light. Luca sat still as the needle pierced his arm, blood flowing slowly through a narrow tube. His eyes stayed fixed on the door, where Emma stood watching, her hands clasped tightly, her face a storm of fear and fragile hope. She never thought she'd see this day. The man she once loved, once hated, now sitting in a hospital room, giving part of himself to save the child they shared. Dr. Torres checked the monitor and nodded approvingly. "Good. We'll send your sample to the lab immediately. The compatibility results should be ready within 24 hours. Luca nodded, his voice rough. "Whatever it takes. I'll do anything." When the doctor left, Emma stepped inside. She tried to speak evenly, but her throat was tight. "Thank you." He looked up, a faint smile touching his lips. "Don't thank me. This is something I should have done a long time ago." Silence fell between them, heavy with everything they hadn't said, everything time had stolen. Luca's gaze drifted to the sterile walls, then back to her. "Does he know who I am?" "He does," Emma whispered. "He thinks you're a miracle." The door creaked open, and a small voice broke the stillness. "Mom, can I come in?" Leo peeked through, his eyes lighting up when he saw Luca. "Dad, did they take your blood? Did it hurt?" Luca laughed softly, a sound roughened by fatigue but warm enough to fill the room. "Just a little, but I'm fine, buddy." The boy approached, his tiny hand resting gently on his father's arm where the white bandage was still fresh. "Thank you, Dad." 2 simple words, and Luca's chest tightened painfully. He reached out, brushing his fingers through Leo's hair, his touch trembling. "No, Leo. Thank you for giving me a reason to come back." Emma stood in silence watching them. The sight pierced her heart. Joy and sorrow intertwined. She realized that no matter what the tests revealed, they already had their small miracle. For the first time, Leo had a father, and Luca had a son. The next afternoon, pale sunlight streamed through the hospital window, casting a soft glow on Leo's sleeping face. Emma sat beside his bed, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. She'd never felt so calm or so terrified. Every passing minute waiting for Luca's test results stretched like a lifetime. The door opened. Dr. Torres entered holding a thick folder. Her expression softened. A rare smile curved her lips. "Ms. Rivera, Mr. Moretti?" she said, pausing briefly. "We have the results. Luca is a full genetic match, perfectly compatible." Emma's breath caught. Tears spilled before she could speak. "He's a match?" "Yes. It's an extraordinary genetic alignment. Your son is very lucky." Her whole body trembled. She pressed a hand to her mouth, sobbing softly. Luca stood still, eyes shining, his shoulders easing as if the air had finally returned to his lungs. He turned to the doctor, voice low but steady. "Then let's prepare for surgery." When Dr. Torres left, silence filled the room again. Emma wiped her tears, her voice fragile. "Thank you. I don't have words." Luca stepped closer, gaze gentle but resolute. "Don't thank me. This is a gift life gave me, to save my son, and to fix what I once lost." He hesitated, took a deep breath. "Emma, before I go into surgery, I need to tell you the truth about that night." Her pulse quickened, but she said nothing. "The woman you saw in my office was Isabella, my former fiancée. She showed up without warning. She told me she had terminal cancer, stage 4, and begged to see me one last time. She was terrified, crying, and I held her because she was dying and I didn't know what else to do. That's when you walked in." Emma's breath hitched, her heart pounding painfully. Luca's eyes never left hers. "You left before I could explain. And that sentence you heard, when I said, 'You're the mistake I should never have made,' it wasn't about you. I told Isabella that letting you go was my biggest mistake. You were the woman I planned to marry, Emma. I had the ring with me that night." The room seemed to tilt. 8 years of resentment and heartbreak dissolved into stunned silence. Emma staggered back, tears welling, voice trembling. "No, that can't be true." Luca reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. Time had worn the edges, but when he opened it, the sapphire ring still gleamed like a frozen flame. "I've carried it for 8 years, he whispered. "Everywhere I went. I just never stopped hoping I'd have the chance to tell you." Emma's tears fell freely now. 8 years, all of it just a misunderstanding. Luca took a step forward, his voice breaking but steady. "If I could turn back time, I'd chase you down that hallway and make you listen. But I can't. What I can do is this: give our son a part of me, and promise I'll never walk away again." Emma looked at him through the blur of tears. The man she'd loved, hated, and never truly let go of. In that moment, anger melted away, replaced by something achingly simple: truth. She nodded, voice barely a whisper. "Save our son, and if you can, save my heart too." The night before the surgery, the hospital was wrapped in an unusual stillness. The long corridors glowed under pale yellow light, reflections trembling on the ceiling as if time itself had slowed. Only the soft echo of footsteps and the faint tapping of rain outside broke the silence. Inside the room, Leo sat up in bed, his small hands carefully folding tiny paper cranes. There were nearly 30 of them already, a patchwork of colors lined neatly on the bedside table. He looked up, his dark eyes shining. "Mom, is it true that if you fold 1,000 cranes, your wish comes true?" Emma smiled, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "It's true, sweetheart. What are you wishing for?" Leo studied the crane in his hand, then said softly but firmly, "I just wish our family could live together. When I get better, I don't want Dad to fly away anymore." Emma froze, unable to find words. Before she could speak, the door opened. Luca stepped in, wearing a hospital gown, looking pale but steady. He'd heard the boy's wish and stopped in the doorway. "I promise, Leo," he said, his voice low and warm. "I'll stay wherever you are. San Francisco, anywhere. I'm not leaving again." Leo beamed, clutching the last paper crane before placing it beside the others. "Then I'll fold the other 970 to make sure it really comes true." He yawned, then drifted into sleep, the paper crane still cradled in his hands. Emma pulled the blanket up to his chin. When she turned, Luca was still there, his face soft under the dim light. They stood in silence for a while, the rhythmic beeping of the monitor filling the space between them. "I never thought I'd hear you say those words. That you'd stay," Emma murmured. Luca exhaled slowly. "I never thought I'd get to say them. But the truth is, Emma, I've been standing still all these years, just trapped in the memory of you." She met his gaze. For the first time in years, there was no anger in her eyes, only a quiet sadness, the kind that follows a long storm. "I hated you for a long time, Luca. But tonight, seeing you with Leo, I just feel sorry. If only I had stayed to listen that night." "We both lost too much," he said softly. "But maybe now, we have a chance to start over." She nodded faintly. The soft glow of the lights reflected in their eyes, two weary souls finding warmth again. Luca laid a hand gently on her shoulder. "Tomorrow, everything will be okay." "You really think so?" "No," he smiled faintly, "but I believe it." Outside, the rain had stopped. The city seemed to hold its breath for the coming dawn, a dawn they were all waiting for, carrying a single promise whispered between them: to stay and to live together. That morning, the city was wrapped in a silver haze. From the 12th floor window of San Francisco Children's Hospital, soft light filtered through the blinds, touching Emma's tired face. She stood there, holding a cup of cold coffee, her eyes distant. Down in the surgical ward, Luca and Leo were being prepped for the operation that would decide everything. Dr. Torres had said it simply earlier that morning. Dual transplant. 2 operations running simultaneously. We're ready. But no one can ever truly be ready for the moment when life hangs by a thread. When the doors to the operating rooms closed, Emma stood frozen in the corridor. The world dimmed. The sound of wheels, footsteps, machines, all faded until she could only hear the frantic rhythm of her own heart. Time stretched painfully. Every minute was an ache. She tried to sit, then stood again, pacing like a ghost lost in a loop of fear. In her palm, she clutched one of Leo's paper cranes, the one he'd folded last night. Its uneven wings trembled between her fingers, fragile as hope itself. By late morning, Dr. Elena Torres appeared, her face drawn but her eyes shining. Emma leapt to her feet. "Doctor!" The woman smiled softly, laying a hand on her shoulder. "They're both fine. The transplant was a complete success. The kidney started functioning immediately." For a second, Emma didn't move. Then the meaning hit her, and she broke, laughing and crying all at once as tears streamed down her face. The weight she'd carried for days, for years, lifted in a single heartbeat. An hour later, she was allowed into the recovery room. Luca lay there, pale but breathing steadily. When she touched his hand, his eyelids fluttered. "Emma." His voice was rough but filled with relief. "How's our boy?" "He's perfect. The surgery worked. You did it." He exhaled shakily, a tear slipping free. "Thank God. Now you know, don't you? I never really left." She didn't answer. She bent down and pressed her lips to his hand. Over the white bandage, her silent gratitude trembling through her breath. Then she moved to the next room. Leo was sleeping, color returning to his cheeks, his breathing calm. The little paper crane she'd carried sat beside his bed, and Emma whispered softly, "Your wish came true, my love." She sat there holding his hand, the midday sunlight spilling across his pillow. For the first time in years, Peace didn't feel like a dream. By late afternoon, Luca insisted on seeing Leo. Still weak, he was wheeled into the room. The moment he appeared, Leo's eyes fluttered open. "Dad!" "I'm here, Leo." "Does it hurt?" Luca smiled faintly, his voice tender and full of life. "Not at all, son. I just gave you a little piece of me so you'll always carry me with you." Emma stood beside them, tears shining in her eyes. But this time, they were tears of grace. The world felt alive again, as though it too had survived the storm. Outside, sunlight pierced through the clouds, flooding the room in gold. 3 silhouettes merged together in the glow, 3 hearts reborn from fear into hope. For the first time in 8 years, Emma wasn't afraid of mourning anymore, because this dawn, finally, was theirs. A week after the surgery, San Francisco's sky was unusually clear. Sunlight poured through the hospital windows, casting warm gold across the white tiles. Even the sterile smell of disinfectant seemed softer that morning, replaced by laughter, footsteps, and the quiet hum of life resuming. Emma stood at the door of the recovery room, watching the 2 men in her life, one big, one small, laughing together on the bed. Leo was sitting up, color back in his cheeks, proudly announcing that he'd folded 200 cranes in a week. Luca chuckled, his smile tender, eyes bright with the kind of pride words couldn't describe. When they were discharged, Dr. Torres walked them to the lobby. "Both of you are recovering beautifully," she said. "You're walking miracles." Emma squeezed her hand. "Thank you for giving us a second beginning." The doctor smiled as they walked away. 3 silhouettes, bathed in morning light, stepping into a new life. That night, their small apartment glowed in soft lamplight. Dinner was simple, vegetable soup and toasted bread, but it tasted like home. Leo sat curled up on the couch, clutching his paper crane, smiling sleepily. Emma looked from her son to Luca. The golden light caught his eyes, making the world outside fade away. "It's strange," she murmured. "Everything here, the table, the couch, the walls, they were always the same, but when you walked in, it finally felt like home." Luca's lips curved faintly. "I was afraid I'd never hear you say that." Silence filled the space, gentle and full. The ticking of the clock was slow, steady, almost like a heartbeat. Then Luca spoke, his voice low and rough with sincerity. "Emma, thank you for letting me come back. I don't deserve it, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "We've both paid our price, Luca, but if this is a second chance, I want to believe in it." He reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek, so lightly that time seemed to stop. Their eyes met, and in that gaze, 8 years melted away. The kiss was soft, slow, almost trembling, as if neither wanted to break the spell. But in that tenderness lived everything: love, regret, and forgiveness reborn. When they pulled apart, a small, sleepy voice broke the quiet. "Mom." Emma looked over to see Leo blinking up at them. "Families have to get married if they want to live together." Luca laughed. Emma flushed. But there was something pure in the boy's innocent certainty. She leaned over, tucking the blanket around him. "Sleep, sweetheart. We'll see about that later." But Luca didn't wait. He turned toward her, eyes deep and unwavering. Slowly, he knelt beside the bed, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Time had faded the fabric, but the sapphire inside still glowed like captured starlight. 8 years ago, I was going to propose to you. Tonight, I still want to. Emma gasped, tears falling freely. The room was utterly still, the only sound the steady breathing of the sleeping child between them. She nodded through her tears, her voice a whisper. "Yes." Luca smiled, a real smile, soft and certain. He slid the ring onto her finger and kissed it gently, sealing the promise. No diamonds, no crowd, no grand gestures, just warmth, forgiveness, and love that had survived everything. Outside, the wind carried the scent of rain through the open window, brushing past them like a blessing. One chapter had closed. Another, quieter, brighter, and wholly theirs, had just begun. That autumn morning, sunlight drifted softly over San Francisco, filtering through the trees behind the small apartment where Emma, Luca, and Leo had lived together for 3 months. Today was their day. Not just a wedding, but the beginning of a life they had all fought for. No lavish decorations, no grand hall, just white ribbons fluttering in the breeze, a few wooden chairs, and the sound of Leo's laughter echoing like music. Dressed in a tiny suit, he stood proudly with a little notebook in hand. "Now presenting the bride and groom," Leo announced with mock seriousness. Emma laughed as Luca stepped forward, handsome in a simple gray suit, his eyes gleaming not from the light, but from joy. As they faced each other, the wind stirred the hundreds of paper cranes hanging across the garden, the 1,000 cranes they had folded together over the weeks, now shimmering like wings of hope. Luca took her hands, his voice low and tender. "I build bridges across lands, but you are the bridge that connects my heart." Emma smiled through her tears. "Love is a choice, and today, I choose you again." Applause broke out, and Leo shouted gleefully, "Now, release the cranes!" They opened their hands together. The paper cranes soared into the sky, spinning in the sunlight. 1,000 wishes finally coming true. For forgiveness, for family, for forever. Luca leaned in and kissed her, gentle yet deep, as Leo cheered and music swelled from a small speaker nearby. In that perfect moment, laughter, love, and light all around them, they knew that after all the storms, all the lost years, they had finally come home.